Joining me now in studio, Commissioner of the CPL, Mark Noonan. This is becoming an annual tradition for us. It's always great to see you. This is how I know that summer is just around the corner as well.
Summer? I think it's snowing right now, but...
No. I'm going to keep the faith. I'm going to keep the faith because when the boys of soccer show up, we know that warmer weather is around the corner. And speaking of showing up, this is season 7 right now of the CPL, and there's a lot of optimism around this season. But for you personally, what gives you something to be positive about as we head into this next season of the Canadian Premier League?
You know, just the progress that we made on and off the field. You think about 7 seasons young, and we're competing both within the CONCACAF Champions Cup and beating legendary Mexican teams like Pumas, and in the Canadian Championship, beating MLS clubs that have been around for 30 years now. It's a testament to the quality of our play, and we're giving opportunities to young Canadians. You think about the transfers that we're making now. We're participating in the global transfer market, and it's just the improving product and the opportunities we're giving to Canadians.
We're going to get into a lot of what you just mentioned right there. But first, I mean, I can't bury the lead, because whenever I tell people, I cover the CPL, or they know that I cover the CPL, right away they say, we're fans, we love it. When are they expanding? And we know that you also have just made the announcement that you're going to play in Quebec. We know that last year the CPL on tour was in Kelowna. Maybe those two particular markets, are they on your radar for expansion, or just where are we with that?
Yeah, we wouldn't have brought the CPL on tour to Kelowna or to Quebec City if they weren't on our radar. Very much on our radar. We're having terrific discussions with Kelowna, with the city of Kelowna. Mayor Dias has been terrific. Mayor Marchant in Quebec City has also been terrific and incredibly welcoming. And the reason why we do on tour is for us to be able to test out the market, and whether people are going to show up, whether we can work the municipality, whether the youth soccer community is going to engage in those markets. It's been terrific. And so we're going to expand when we have all the conditions ready to be successful. Great local ownership, a facility to play in, municipal support, youth soccer support, corporate support. Putting that puzzle together is not easy, particularly in Canada when it comes to facility, but we are making tremendous progress, and I think we're going to see some expansion announcements soon.
Okay, I mean, do we have a number? I know that is there a certain target of how many teams that you would like by a certain year? Are we still there? Like 2030, for example, are we still looking at 16 teams?
Yeah, I think 2032 is a little bit more realistic for 16, but the goal is to double the size of the league by 2032. We want to do it systematically. And we have to be careful about the product. There's only so many players right now to go around, and we have to, if we expand by 4 teams at a time, for instance, that doesn't make a lot of sense from a product standpoint. So we're going to be systematic about it, but I think 2030, 2032, you'll see a 16-team CPL.
It's also not just a matter of saying, okay, we're going to expand. You also need the facilities. You need the space for that. So we know out in Halifax, that team in particular, where are they as well in being able to have that stadium?
Yeah, they're a pillar in that community. They've really become a really important part of the sport and entertainment lifestyle there, and people plan all of their activities around a Wanderers game. And Derek has put together a tremendous proposal with the city to build a purpose-built stadium on Wanderers ground. The city this year has actually supported Derek with additional infrastructure to help economically, and they're having a third-party review of the proposal right now. We expect to get feedback on that in the spring, and once we get the feedback out, hopefully we'll have a path forward.
What have those conversations also just been like in general when you do approach these other cities or possible places where you can expand into when it comes to venues? Is that still pretty much a big challenge?
Yeah, it is a big challenge in this market. It just it is. We have some municipalities saying, hey, we either build schools or hospitals or roads, or we build stadiums for professional sports leagues. And we make the argument, which we fundamentally believe, is we provide inspiration to the next generation. We provide entertainment for your citizens. We provide economic value by creating jobs and having traveling supporters. And the other thing that we do is we showcase your city on our broadcasts to 41 countries, and that's a commercial, 2-hour commercial every time we light up a game. And so the cities are really starting to realize the benefit of having a CPL team.
Well, speaking of showcasing, because fans at home, they love an incredible experience, and a lot of that has to come with the amount of cameras or camera angles, and I know that that's something that the CPL is experimenting with this season. What do we know about how the games are going to be shot?
Well, the games are going to be shot by our terrific One Soccer crew, and probably the biggest change people are going to see is in Ottawa, where we've put the cameras on the other side.
Okay.
And so they'll be facing into the tremendous supporters at Ottawa, and then I think that's going to make a huge difference there. And then we have a partnership with TSN that we've announced to simulcast games with One Soccer to broaden the distribution. Because when you think about One Soccer's tremendous, it is the home of soccer here in Canada to a very core audience. But there's millions of soccer-interested people in Canada that haven't found One Soccer yet or haven't found CPL. And having the broad distribution at TSN allows us to speak to those soccer-interested people and bring them into our universe.
I had asked Tommy Wheeldon Jr. about this as well. I know a lot of people are being asked about the ability to have it on another platform as well, right? And TSN being that platform. So for people who are going to see the CPL for the first time, just what is it that you would like them to know about this league?
What I would like them to know is that it is made in Canada, it's played in Canada. 73% of our minutes have gone to Canadian players. And so we are creating opportunities for people who love the beautiful game in this country that they've never had before, not just on the field for players, but off the field as well. We're extending careers. Your partner Jordan was a phenomenal player in our league, and now he's just amazing. Transitioning into broadcast. Mason Trafford, captain of Cavalry, is now in the front office. Drew Becky is in the front office of Ottawa, and so we're the league of opportunity. And the one other thing that people may not realize is that we're giving thousands of reps to Canadian referees who are now going on to referee in CONCACAF competitions and FIFA competitions, and getting recognized because they're getting their reps and they're developing as professionals just like our players. And so we're affordable. You can bring your family and not break the family budget. It's great entertainment, and our fans tell us it's a release. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now, and it's a 2.5-hour release to be with your family, be with your friends, forget about everything else that's going on, and really, really kind of have a great time. That's
why I do sports. I just need to escape. I can't handle the heaviness of everything else. But the league does continue to change, and we know you have some new roster rules this season. In particular, you're increasing the player budget, recognizing more players with domestic designation. So I guess if they've been playing in the CPL for 3 years, and international, if they've been playing for 3 years, will now get recognized as a domestic. How do you think these rules will raise the level of standard for just the player and the league as a whole competitively?
Yeah, from a salary cap standpoint, we compete in a global market, and allows us to hopefully hang on to the talent that we have and pay developing talent and keep them in this country, in our league. The international rule gives our team some roster flexibility, but it also rewards players who have really contributed to the growth of our game. The Andre Rampersands of the world, the Alex Ancelotti Johnson. I don't know how you do it with all the pronunciations.
That's Adam Jenkins. He's got to do that play-by-play.
Amazing. It's obviously why I don't do this all the time. But but rewarding those guys for the years of service that they put into the league, and while it's 3 years, most of them have put far more than 3 years into it. But so it's we're just trying to ensure that we put the best product we can on the field, and that's what these rule changes are about.
When it also comes to budget, salary cap, there's been workarounds like Major League Soccer, and we know that even now the Northern Super League, there's going to be the designated player rule, right, which can count beyond your cap. Is that something that CPL would ever be interested in?
We talk about that, and we talk about it in a number of different ways. Is it a single player? Is it a budget to go out and get 3 players so that we are more competitive when we're playing outside of our league? Because inside of our league, there's no need to do that unless you want to perhaps bring in somebody that's going to sell tickets, and we're not going to at this point be able to afford Lionel Messi. What we can do is build that next generation of player, and we're starting to do that with our under 17 exceptional young talent rule, which is under 18, and allowing those young players to come in our league, and they're choosing our league. 2 years ago, we weren't even on their radar screen. And then we created this rule, and now we are starting to sign these guys like Shola Jimo, who are coming to the league because they're getting games of consequence, they're playing against men, and they're getting exposed to leagues that are more established. And we've sold Kwesi Poku, we've sold Grady McDonald. We're in the process of entering that market, and Emil Gazdov. We had a number of really great success stories. So as they go on, players are seeing that and saying, wow, a couple years in CPL, and I can launch my career. And so, again, a league of opportunity.
Do you find that, as you just mentioned, a lot of those players as well who most recently you've sold and have moved on, and do you get that sense that other players are saying, we want to be a part of this league? It does get the eyeballs, right? All your games being televised, and they have been from the beginning here on One Soccer, now introducing TSN as this other platform. But then to your point, it translates into moving on to other leagues. Do you get that sense that players are saying this is a destination spot for us now?
Absolutely, and a launching pad.
Yeah.
And we are a league that is developing, and we're developing great Canadian players that then go out into the world and do well with these new clubs, and getting a reputation for our league and for the clubs that sold them. And that is growing. We had the most successful offseason we've ever had.
Very true. And so when you look at these young players and moving on, and you had mentioned it earlier, when you also just look at the success of your teams, and most recently, like just Cavalry being the first CPL side to defeat a League MX side in Pumas, I mean, how much do you take pride in that and selling that?
Yeah, no, I was at that match out in Victoria, and it was just a really special night because it had snowed before and the atmosphere was incredible, and it wasn't a fluke. They were the better team that day. And I happen to believe if they still had Dan Klomp on that roster, they would have won the tie. They were not outclassed. They were every bit as good as Pumas in that match and in that tie. And it just shows you how far that we've come in how short a time, and what a great job Tommy and that group have done in building a great team.
So CPL and NSL, Northern Super League, which is going to be launching in a couple weeks here, the Women's Domestic League. I know that the two are not affiliated. However, a lot of the players that are going to be in NSL have come through the League One system. Right. Ontario, Quebec, BC, you name it. And that is something that is governed by CPL, CSB. So when you look at that, and you see that these players now have this league that they can move on to, what does that tell you about the product of League One? It's
phenomenal. And when we took over League One in 2019, it had 40 clubs. Now it's up to close to 200 clubs, I think 80 of which are women's clubs. We created the Women's Interprovincial Championship, which was the highest level of soccer in this country until NSL came along. And if you look about League One, and the national teams are littered with League One players. Richie Larea, Alistair Johnston. We have 60 League One players in our league. League One last year, CS Saint Laurent in the Canadian Championship defeated Halifax Wanderers, and a bunch of those players got picked up in our league. And so I would guess, I don't know the facts, but the majority of players in NSL have come through League One. And it's a continuum, because you go from League One, and now a hole has been filled by NSL, and hopefully NSL, like CPL has done, is going to create players for the women's national team. Yeah. And that's going to improve soccer. So we're excited about the role NSL is going to play, and the connection that we have to that league with League One.
You've been the commissioner now 3 years.
Close to it. Yeah.
Close to, heading into 3 years. I'm wondering what you personally have learned about the sport in this country.
It's incredibly passionate. I mean, I didn't realize that there were so many people in Canada with a deep history in the game, whether that's from where they were born whether that's from the days of the NASL. I talked to a guy yesterday who was talking about the Toronto Blizzard and how impactful it was on his youth, and you don't realize that you have these pockets. And I lived between Little Italy and Little Portugal when I first moved here. And it was incredible.
You survived?
When the World Cup was on, I mean, it was just this incredible festival. So it's just that, I've learned that there's an amazing amount of passion for the sport. And what we have to do is take that passion and turn that into passion for CPL, its clubs, and its players. And it takes time, and it takes us to do a great job on and off the field, but slowly but surely we're going to translate that into a really powerful league.
Well, and I love what was being said at the final in 2024. I mean, Tommy was preaching, even Bobby was preaching it, that to your point about taking that passion to CPL, they can buy tickets, fans can buy tickets and actually watch their heroes live and in person here, which is pretty special. And you can create that bond right now with the players who represent your favorite CPL team. When it comes to priorities, I mean, we've been discussing a plethora of topics here, but I'm wondering if you narrow down as you head into season 7, are there maybe 1, 2, 3 top priorities that you have heading into the year?
Absolutely. Product, right? You can never fake your product. You always got to continue increasing the entertainment value, as well as the value of your players, because we live in this global market and we need to sell and reinvest. So you start with product, media distribution. We need to make sure that people fall in love with the Canadian Premier League and its players, its clubs. I mean, you mentioned how approachable they are. The kid who is in the grassroots in Calgary, he doesn't realize that Charlie Trafford isn't Lionel Messi. He's Charlie Trafford. I can see him. I can hold his hand walking out to the game. I mean, that's the heroes are in your own market. So we've got that media expansion. And with expansion is facilities. Those are the things we wake up kind of every day. How do we expand the number of people that fall in love with us? How do we engage them? And then how do we get facilities built? How do we expand? And obviously the product. You can never lose sight. Football first.
And you have to be seen, and that's pretty key. And you've just mentioned it a couple times there when it comes to broadcasts, and obviously every game available on One Soccer, now a game of the week on TSN. How do you see the future of broadcasting? What's the goal there when it comes to the CPL?
The goal is to participate in the economics of the broadcast entities here in Canada, and any professional sports league needs to generate revenue, as well as exposure, as well as promotion from its broadcast partners. And so we need to have a thriving partnership, in this case, in the linear world, as well as through One Soccer. A lot of the new broadcast world is hybrid. You have some Amazon, you got Apple, you have some network television, you got linear, and we need to put that puzzle together in a way that we can generate the awareness, the promotion, and the economic value out of our broadcast.
All right, opening weekend. This is pretty exciting. And I'm not going to put you on the spot and say you have to pick a winner. I only do that to Gareth Wheeler and Jordan Wilson. But you are entering a season where Cavalry are the defending champs, right? Not Forge. Do you anticipate maybe a little bit more competition, a little bit more parity? I
think this will, you think about last year, 111 out of 112 regular season games counted, and the last day when we had all 4 teams playing at the same time, I think only 2 out of the 8 positions had been decided. We have one of the most competitive leagues in the world from top to bottom, and I wouldn't be surprised if we had a new champion this year. But it's hard to bet against Tommy and Bobby and the organizations that they've put together. But I think this will be equally as competitive to last year, if not more so. And that's what fans want. Like, they want to have hope, and that their team has an opportunity to lift a shield or lift a cup or win the Canadian Championship. And that's what we're working on, and that's what gets everybody out of bed every day. And we have such passionate, committed people in this sport at the club level. You walk into our office and this is not a job for people, this is a calling. And people are thinking about how do we build this legacy for Canadian soccer every single day. And it's really gratifying to see the commitment that people have.
Well, it's year lucky number 7. That's what we're entering. Opening weekend, really looking forward to it, and always look forward to our start of the season conversation. Right. Commissioner Mark Noonan joining us here inside our One Soccer studio. Appreciate you taking the time. Enjoy opening weekend.
Thank you. Thank you.